There it is. Make sure that mic is turned on. Good evening and welcome to day 33 of the 100 Days of Shakespeare event. Tonight I am writing a Shakespearean style sonnet live on the stream. So this was something that I pledged to do, and it's a little bit more exciting than actually, because somebody who is following along with the 100 Days of Shakespeare actually bought one of my sonnets and asked me to write that sonnet for their chosen person live on the stream. So they're getting a bit of a double whammy. So I'll just make sure that focus is good. I might just blow that
100 Days
up a little bit more just to get that focus right. Bear with me. Sorry, I just get that happening. I just want to make sure that you're going to be able to see this as well. So a little bit of a different setup tonight. Firstly, I've got a little bit of foam here in the corner, so just ignore that. That's actually covering my microphone, hoping that it's going to stop the breeze from the ceiling fan hitting the microphone and blowing through that. So I'm trying to protect that from a sound point of view. I'm hoping that that's working. I'll check in with my headphones very, very soon. Or if you are in the YouTube chat, let me know if that audio is sounding okay. I am trying to find the chat. There it is. So I'm just going to turn that screen off because that's disconcerting, seeing myself play back in slight delay. So microphones here. Now this is a very sensitive microphone. It's actually on its own stand, but every now and again you might hear a bit of a bump as I'm moving around and clicking things. It's pretty sensitive and picks things up pretty well. So hopefully the noise from the fan, the air blowing through it, isn't going to cause an issue. I have got some butcher's paper set up here on the wall, because what I'm going to do is pop some ideas and things up here on the wall as we go through it, so you can kind of get a bit of an idea of my thought process as I do this. This is something I've been doing for years. I love writing sonnets. I love writing them for people. And when I was really kind of building out parts of my business, I thought to myself, you know, there is a little double audio. Oh, okay, great. Thank you for that, Drop Bear. Let me hopefully cut that out. So hopefully that will fix it. So you might have a bit of a delay, but give me a bit of a nod if, let me know if that's fixed it. So hopefully that's fixed it. Yeah, so when I was building out the business, looking at the creative things that I did that I could potentially sell for people, sonnets was one of them. You know, people loved them, people enjoyed receiving them, and people like to give things to people. So hoped that would be something. It's become a bit of a thing, and every now and again someone buys one and I get to write a sonnet, which is always good. So what I traditionally do when I'm writing a sonnet, and I'm still very new to this OBS thing, so yep, all good now. Awesome. Thank you, Drop Bear Adventures. I haven't worked out how to manage and control everything by myself, so I'm not going to be able to share my screen with you, which is why I've put this up here so we can share some thoughts here. If you are watching this on the Facebook stream, so I'm multicasting this at the moment to YouTube and Facebook, there is not going to be a way for me to be able to track any comments on the Facebook chat. So if you want to add a comment, if you want to add, contribute or whatever, you'll have to jump over to the YouTube channel and watch it there and use the comments in the YouTube channel, because that's the only one I'm going to be able to see, because I'm still working it out. So yeah, so let's get started. So what I do when I'm sending somebody, when someone wants me to write them a sonnet, is I send them a survey, and the survey is about 20 questions that I ask them to answer, so that I can essentially get some inspiration about the person they want the sonnet written for. So what's the purpose of the sonnet? Is it a birthday present, a wedding present? I've done sonnets now for a lot of birthdays, just general gifts for people. I actually wrote somebody a sonnet for their wedding vows, which was very special. And so the process is that you need to know what you're writing about. And so this survey gives me that information. So let's go through the survey. I won't mention who this is for. They may work it out if they see this before they get it. So this is actually for a birthday that's happening in a few weeks or something. So a few weeks or a month or two, something like that. So plenty of lead time, which is great. And so let's have a look. So recipient's birth month is March. All right, so it's a birthday happening sometime in March. So we know March, which is great. Recipient's eye colour is blue. So these are all just things that I can use to, start putting ideas together. Favourite colour is aqua. So that's cool. I generally get a hair colour. So this is what we got, blondie brown. So we'll go hair, blonde, brown. So probably dirty blonde. I don't know. They love dogs. That's cool. A couple of skipped questions, which is fine. Places they like to visit are the woods. So they like to visit forest areas. So that's cool. So aspects of the natural world that the recipient likes. This somebody is... so when we say nature, we use clouds. They like clouds. Big question I always ask is, does the recipient believe in God? Because, obviously, the Elizabethan period was still very religious at that point, and so God features in a lot of references in plays and writings and poetry and that sort of thing. This person doesn't, so I won't put any reference to God in the sonnet. Other questions I ask, some of these haven't been answered, and they're not mandatory. It's just you answer what you can. Favourite flower, favourite food, favourite hobby, that kind of stuff. So this person, I'll just double check I've got the right one. Yeah, good. Now, I haven't actually seen this yet. I deliberately didn't look at this list until tonight so that I could do this as fresh and raw with you as possible. So, favourite hobby is, or a hobby that they love to do, which is drawing. I like to draw. Iconic to the recipient. Colour, gems, gemology. That's interesting. Gemology. Oh, sorry, I should have started a bit lower. I just noticed that. Not that it looks like you can see those words anyway. So, things they hate, no. Words that you would describe, words that you feel describe the recipient. So, what are some words that you use to describe the person? So, we've got gentle, which is nice. And already we're seeing some really cool alliteration potentials here with gems and gentle. I quite like that. So always on the lookout for alliteration, assonance. We'll dig into some similes and metaphors later and see what kind of imagery we can create through this process. Cool. What else have we got? Anything else you would like to add about the recipient? They love the medieval world, and this person would like a reference to knights, masters, mistresses, that kind of thing in there as well. So knights. So I actually know this person who's purchased the sonnet, and they and their partner are members of the medieval reenactment group, the Society for Creative Anachronism. So I've actually sold a few sonnets to people in the SCA, funnily enough. So I would get it from this reference that this person is, well, I know that the person that's purchased it is a peer of the realm, so there's levels of awards that you can get in the SCA that are like knighthood and equivalent across other aspects of the game. So for service, for the arts, for fighting with fencing swords as well. So I would hazard a guess that this is a reference to those peerage awards. What would you like the recipient to know through the sonnet? This is key because this is the key messaging that the sonnet will be built around. So that is the response here is that she is loved. So this is being written for a woman, and And this person just wants them to know that they are loved. So love is the theme. So we're talking, funnily enough, a love sonnet, which is always great. So that's it. That's the info that we've got to start with. So, all right, so let's look at what we've got. We know that they're born in March. Blue eye colour, aqua. A bit of a connection there. Aqua is sometimes a blue-green kind of colour. They like the woods, clouds. We're going to put some medieval references in there, which will be good fun. Dogs, drawing, gems, gemology. I wonder if there is a word for drawing that starts with G, so we'll definitely look that up. So a couple of things that I generally will do to start with is I'm going to look up the birthstone for March, because I don't know what it is. I should probably know what it is, but it's generally something I will always start with, because that might give us a colour. It will give us a gemstone, and particularly given that this person's into gems and gemology, knowing the birthstone of that month is cool. So let's do that. So we're going March birthstone. Richard. Hey, Richard. Good to see you. Aqua. You're kidding me. Let's see if that's the same. So first searches that I've just brought up, the gemstone for March is aquamarine. Can you believe it? Oh, and marine. So there you go. Green, blue, aquamarine. This is actually perfect. So we'll definitely have to work something out about aquamarine. So let's have a quick look at what this says. So this is from GIA.edu. So I'm not sure what that is. So what's GIA? It's a gem encyclopedia, which is cool. So they say aquamarine and bloodstone. Ooh, bloodstone. March's 2 birthstones. So there you go. They say March has 2 birthstones. Aquamarine and... was that bloodstone? So that's interesting. So the stones are aquamarine and bloodstone. Now, of course, the instant thing that I think with bloodstone, we're talking love, which says heart. So now we've got the potential for the blood and the heart being connected. So there's something there. There's similar reputation for protecting one's well-being. Oh, okay, there you go. So the protection. So they speak to protection. Now, again, given that this is a love sonnet, the person that's purchased this could be that person's protector, or maybe we can flip that and write this in a starting point of as though I'm saying, you know, I am your protector, I protect you, but really the turn in this sonnet could be that they really protect us by the way that they treat us and love us and take care of us. So, I mean, there's a really cool flip in that. So let's talk protection could be great, and that could be a really great turn for the sonnet. So if you're not familiar with the structure and the style, so a Shakespearean style sonnet, 14 lines, all rhyming A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G as the rhyming couplet at the end. There is always a turn in these sonnets. So whether that's at line 9, which is the 3rd stanza, or the rhyming couplet, which is the last 2 lines, one of those 2 spots will be where the sonnet turns. And so, you know, in this instance, for instance, we might be saying, you know, I'm your protector, I will take care of you, I'll put my armor on and stand at your gate and be there in case of attack. But the turn in that could then just simply be, but in all honesty, no amount of armor can protect me from your love. You know, and that you are actually my protector in all that you do. So that's a turn. So it kind of takes the initial idea of the sonnet and flips it on its head, which is kind of cool. So I love that protection. Aquamarine birthstone evokes the colours of the sea. Well, that's great because we've already got aqua, blue, aquamarine speaks to the sea. So that's awesome. Can I drop that down? Actually, let me see if I can drop that down. Is that in? That's kind of in. Let's see if I can drop that. So that way you can just see that a little better. Okay. That's better. At least you can kind of see some of the words there. Yeah, so evokes colours of the sea, which is great because we've already got that. And you know, then there's also that concept of a sea of blood. I mean, probably not for a love poem, but you know, you get that idea. You start to grab these things and they start to evoke ideas. So you want to really play into that. From deep green blue to light, slightly greenish blue hues, faceted aquamarines are often free from inclusions. I don't know what that means. And as clear as water. Oh, okay, so probably free from any kind of obstruction in the perfection of the gem. Symbolizing purity and spirit of soul. Purity of spirit and soul. So there's a couple of great words. Purity of spirit or soul. I mean, when we're talking love, I did it again. That's just a little high. When we're talking love, you know, how great. I mean, that's a line that almost writes itself. Purity of spirit, purity of soul. So there's definitely something that we can play on there just purely in the meaning of the stone, which is awesome. The bloodstone birthstone is typically a dark green cabochon. Idiot, I should know that word. That contains red spots of iron oxide, the blood that brings health and strength to the wearer. Read on to learn more about those. So that's GIA.edu if you're ever looking at gemstones. That was one of the first ones that popped up. So they're either very, very great with their SEO on gemstones, which I would say they are, being a gem encyclopedia, but probably also running some ads. Don't know. Let's go theadventurine.com and just confirm that from another source and see what another source thinks of this. The Ultimate Guide to Birthstones. So scrolling, January, February, March. Yep, birthstone, aquamarine. The serenely coloured aquamarine involves the tranquility, great word, tranquil, of the two Latin words that inspired its name, aqua for water, marina for sea. Some places where it's found, Brazil, Nigeria, Madagascar, Zambia, Pakistan, it's fine, don't really matter about the locations. True colours, pale to deep blue, yep. Today's treasure, it's fine. Spiritual, we're not going spiritual, this person doesn't believe in God, so we won't talk about spirituality. Physical, is thought to heal sinus conditions, allergies, respiratory problems, teeth and gum issues, as well as tired eyes. It is known as a cooling gem. I don't know if we can get anything about sinus in there. That might be a little interesting. Greeks and Romans considered aquamarines the treasure of the mermaids. Ooh, mermaids. Mermaids are cool, being mythical creatures. That's you can't see that anyway, so that's all right. I'll use it as a reference for me. It's also believed to protect soldiers going into battle. Oh, well, there you go. Another reference to protection and a distinct reference to protecting a knight, which we know we want to include in here at some point. So I'm kind of loving that. And again, they go on to talk about bloodstone as well. Now, so what I like here is a couple of references to really early period stuff, Romans and that kind of thing. So that tells me that may have been the March gemstone for a long time. I'll just do a quick search on medieval, March and birthstone rather, just in case, because sometimes these things change and they can change over time. The traditional March birthstone is bloodstone. There you go. So here's gemsociety.org. Let's see what they have to say. So again, this is part of the research that I will do to really get a handle on the type of direction that this sonnet could go. So it's a bit of the pre-work you've got to put in to actually make it really resonate with the person that's going to get it. Okay, so aquamarine is March's modern birthstone. So there you go. So there is that change over time. Wonder if there's some reference to when it became the birthstone? Well, let's Google that. When did Aqua, spelling Q-U-A, marine, become the birthstone for March? Question mark. When did Aquamarine become the birthstone for March? It says 1936. That's a bit sad. Oh no, that's not true. That search result just pulled up a reference in some of the quotations here around one that was given to somebody in 1936. So it doesn't tell me. Where is it found? It doesn't say. Okay, so no reference to when it became the birthstone. Does it have any other name? So I'm just wondering if aquamarine, does the gemstone aquamarine have any other names? Because it may have a different name in period history. And the reason I'm digging into the historic nature of it, the name and that kind of thing, is because this person has specifically mentioned knights. So we're talking the medieval period, the Renaissance sort of period, that kind of thing. So I want to make sure that, you know, it probably doesn't matter so much, but if I can get some kind of connection to it, then, and I know there was a reference to soldiers, but were they Roman soldiers? I don't know. So here we go. JulesForMe.com has aquamarine meaning, powers, and history. Birthstone of March, seawater, aquamarine, derived from the Latin word for seawater. I mean, we had aquavitae. Ooh, aquavitae. There's a word that we could tie in. That's a period word for water. And the water of life, that kind of thing. Aquavitae, myths, legends about the stone. Romans believed that if a figure of a frog were carved on an aquamarine, it served to reconcile enemies and make them friends. Okay, so we've got Roman references again here, which is great. All right, cool. Ooh. Oh no, that's just saying combine it with. I was getting a bit excited. This website has a GIF built in that shows you other gemstones that you could pair it with in jewelry, which is kind of cool, but not what I need. Alright, so it seems like it was always called aquamarine. Let me grab my... Because we're working with Shakespeare, we'll grab the lexicons. Let's see if aquamarine is referenced in Shakespeare. LMNOPQR, NMNOPQRSTU. So I'm going back a bit. QR, LMNOPQRAPPPPP. Q. We go straight from aquavitae. So in the Schmidt, is Schmidt in it? Alexander Schmidt, yeah. Schmidt Lexicon Quotation Dictionary. There is no reference to aquamarine as a combined word. There is aquavitae, which we know it. Well, actually, sort of ardent spirits. So that was a spirit. Aquilian and Aquitaine, which is part of France. They're the only AQ words in there. So no reference in Shakespeare to aquamarine. So that's something to consider, whether we use aquamarine itself or just reference it. Or whether we pull the two words apart and find a way to use the two words in the sonnet as two separate words. And, you know, we could potentially end one phrase with aqua, start the next line with marine, particularly if we're talking about the sea. And, you know, we don't have to harp on the sea because this person's talked about the woods and clouds. I would suggest that we might want to reference the sea in context of other types of land. So we might talk about, you know, the distance from sea to the woods, like to the forest. And maybe it's the clouds that connect them. You know, that although the sea, you know, may not be anywhere near the woods, the clouds are a connection, and then we can move the word and the concept of connecting two separate bodies into the connection of these two separate bodies being our knight and our mistress, these two people who are in love. So that's kind of cool, and that connection to protection could be an interesting way to play. So let's go connection, and clouds connecting bodies. That could be interesting. So that sense, yeah, I love it. Oh, here we go. Sumerians and the Egyptians and the Hebrews also admired and valued aquamarine greatly. Symbol of happiness and everlasting youth. Okay, great. So lots of historic references to aquamarine across this website, which is awesome. Yeah, again, protector. I love the idea of it being a protector, and we get a knight who's a protector. So I think we'll definitely head down that line. I love that as a concept. So, all right, let's open a Word document and start bashing out some ideas. So we've got 10 lines to go. So kind of got this idea of protection, connection, two things coming together that, you know, might not normally go together. You know, the sea and the woods kind of opposing, you know, land and sea. They're opposing bodies. They're opposites. And so maybe that's something to play on. So let's riff a little on that concept. So what are we going to start with? So we're going to start this concept. I love that flow of ideas of it being, but then we're not going to be able to get the knights. Well, the knights, I think protection rather than connection. I think protection needs to be the main theme here, because that's going to tie in our knight much easier. Mistress, that's a reference to a peer level award in the SCA, but in this it could be used ambiguously, like a mistress, like a damsel in distress, that kind of thing. I think that's probably a better way to go. I think the main thrust of this needs to stay in that sense of protection. I really like that early idea, actually, of it being more about putting on the armor, protecting, and I actually think that's a much stronger way to go, because trying to find a way. I mean, I might be able to put a line or two in that expresses how. Well, maybe that's where we start. Maybe that's how we start. So maybe we start with how they met, connection, unlikely connection, and we use clouds. So as the clouds that bring the sea and woods together. This isn't in iambic yet. I'm just throwing ideas down, and I'll work the iambic out as I go. So there's, you got one line now that says as the clouds. So then what is the clouds? Let's think about how else we could use clouds, because clouds are both light and airy. They can be storm clouds. They can be, so maybe the clouds become something that connect us, and you know that this person is being protected. Maybe this person is protecting her physically, but she protects him from the storms of life. Oh, that's cool. The storms of life. I like that. Storms of life. I really think this is a strong way to go. I think the flip on that is just too good to pass up. So, yeah. If you're watching, tell me what you think of that as an idea. I'm pretty certain I'm going to go with it, no matter what you think. But I think that's a really strong way to go. So this person is a physical protector, a knight of the realm, but this the partner is his life's protector. That as much as he physically keeps her safe in his armor, at her door, at her gates. Yeah, I love that imagery of him standing guard at her gates. Guard, gates, gentle gems. That's a Gurr. But let's go guard and gates. And we'll find another word that I think we can play that alliteration just with 2. I personally prefer alliteration done at least in 3s. There's just something about the power of it really hitting home. I am the guard at your gates. But I'm sure there's some kind of descriptive word, some sort of adjective we can find that starts with G that can describe the type of guard he is or the type of gates that they are. I mean, it could simply be garden gates, but I would prefer it to be more like this visual impact of a lone soldier standing in front of a castle being its only protector. I think visually that contrast is just so much stronger. So I think that could be cool. I think that could be very cool. So how does it start? We need to start this. Cool. So we might start with the classic "As I," or should be "As I stand," "As I." Or despite. So what's he fighting against? What's he protecting against? The onslaught. So if he's protecting her physically, so he's kind of protecting her from the world, and she's protecting him from emotional damage. So he's protecting her from physical damage, she's protecting him from emotional damage. Aqua. Let's see what else we get in here from Aqua. Let's see if there's some other weird references that are in here for Aqua, so we can dig a little further into ideas around that. QRSTU, TTT. Got to go back a little. QR, still at R, P. There we go. Gone too far. AQ. We did that before. We're just looking for aquamarine. So there's only the 3. Aqua vitae, ardent spirits. What does ardent mean? Ardent is powerful, aren't they? Ardent. Let's see if he's got a reference to it being used in here. Ardent. Fiery. Oh yeah, fiery spirits. Ooh. Aqua vitae being her personality. The fiery spirit of her personality. He didn't tell me if that's her personality, so I'm probably loath to use that simply because it's a pretty big assumption to make. So let's not make that assumption. Garrison. Ooh. I like that. A single... so how big is a garrison? Yes, good suggestion, Richard. So let's look at a garrison, because... garrison. How many men usually make up a garrison? Because I think we can... dictionary.com. Oh, that's dictionary.cambridge. To put a group of soldiers in a place in order to live there and defend it. Garrison, a group of soldiers living in or defending a town. Garrison. So here's a sole garrison to guard her gates. I love that. Sole garrison to guard her gates. I'm sure we can put another 2. And I, comma, your sole garrison to guard your gates. Your sole garrison to guard your gates. Well, there's 10. I don't like the I, comma, your sole garrison. Not a massive fan of that. But I am loving the idea of the sole garrison. We'll work on that. So to guard your gates. I love that. So we need a rhyming word for gates. So a couple of websites that I generally have when I'm writing a sonnet is dictionary.com, because it also is connected to thesaurus.com. And sometimes you just need to look for different meanings of words. Thesaurus.com is an incredible resource, and it's free. So let's go. And the other one is a website called rhymezone.com, and I just use that to find rhyming words. So, obviously the structure of an Elizabethan sonnet, a Shakespearean sonnet rather, is that it, it's got that rhyming pattern, that rhyming structure. So I am all about getthechasecard.com. No, maybe I spelt rhyme wrong. Rhyme Zone. There it is. Rhyme Zone, rhyming dictionary and thesaurus. Okay, so let's see what rhymes with gates that we might not have thought of. Baits, cates, crates, dates, fates. Fates has got to be in there. So if we've got gates, fates, we're talking peril, death, protection. Fate has to be there somewhere. Plates, gates, mates, nates, rates, states, traits. Traits is good. Loving fates. There's just, you can't go wrong when you're talking about the fates. I mean, it's just such a good thing to use. Then we get into 2-syllable, 3-syllable. The thing I love about rhymezone.com is that it will give you a rhyming word in batches of 1-syllable words, then 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will go into phrases as well. So this has got a 12-syllable phrase, Attorney General of the United States. Not helpful, but when you're getting into, delegates, dedicates. Oh, dedicates, great word. Dedicates my life. And we could go to singular. Yes. We could go to singular and use dedicate. That's a cool rhyme as well. So we got fate and fates, dedicate and dedicates. So I love that idea. I love dedicate because that line could end basically saying, into the protection of your life, I do dedicate to be the soul, to guard as sole garrison your gate, or something like that. So we could play through. Oh no, we can't, because that's the line above. So anyway, but yeah, we can play a line and then come into guarding the gate. So basically, we could say that he's dedicating his life to protect her, to stand guard at her gate. A sole garrison to stand guard at your... There we go, there's a line. As sole garrison to stand guard at your gate. As sole garrison to stand guard at your gate. 11, damn it. And as sole garrison to stand guard at your gate. Yep, so that's 11. So that won't quite work. But another great idea. Cool. All right, I'm loving this. I'm loving this idea that the story of our sonnet, because there always needs to be some kind of story, in my opinion. We're setting it up that he has taken stand at her gate to protect her, guard her life. And then if we get to the end, so we can have potentially 2 stanzas about his choice to protect her. And then the turn could happen at stanza 3 in line 9, where it basically says, but despite my armor, despite my weapons, despite all that I have that protects my body, one look from you can pierce my heart. So we're setting up this sense of the physical protection of armor. Maybe we talk about battles he's been in, to fight for kingdom, country, that kind of stuff. And I mean, I'm a little loath to make it too much about him and less about her. But if we set up that the premise is that for 2 stanzas, he's talking about the lengths that he will go to keep her safe, then it does kind of put the focus on her, and that he would take a beating. He would happily go to war. Maybe that's a way to play it. And maybe it's, but if you bid, I would stand sole garrison and guard your gate. So something like that. So despite the fact that I am a man to the king, I am in homage, in loyalty, in fealty to my king, and that I must go. Oh, so here's a line. The idea that he, as a knight, must answer his king's call and go to war and wear this armor and protect the kingdom. But with one word from you, I would ignore the king and stand guard at your gate. That's how important she is to him. That despite being in fealty to the king, he would put all of that aside and he would risk life. He would risk his death at the hands of the king in breaking fealty, because his fealty to her is so much stronger. And yet, no matter of weapon, no matter... Yeah, I think this is a nice track. This is cool. That's cool. So that idea of... yeah, answering the king's call, as I have time after time answered the call of my king to take up arms against a sea of troubles. Maybe we won't use that line. But, sorry, I'm just reaching down to take off my shoes because it's a little warm in this room. And I'm getting creative. I need to free my body. Yeah, so maybe that's cool. That's great, because everybody understands that sense of being called by your king to protect the kingdom. So answering the call of the crown to protect the kingdom. So maybe that's the flow. So just setting the scene. Yes, maybe just setting the scene that way. That's cool. Okay, let's go with that. So stanza 1. And I'll do this. I'll kind of put ideas down to be the concept of that stanza, so that I can get the flow of it right and then focus on each stanza separately and build it out as an idea. So stanza 1, we're going to go with answering the call of the crown to protect the kingdom. We probably need to get in there some idea of putting the armor on, because do we? Maybe we don't, but I like the idea that it... I mean, we put masks on to protect ourselves from other people. We guard ourselves against emotional abuse and hurt from other people. We put on emotional armor, to protect ourselves. Maybe you don't know. I hate saying that. A friend of mine pointed out to me how often I say, so I apologize. Yeah, okay. Well, stanza 1, a call from the crown. And I think it's the history, the fact that that's happened a lot, that this person has been a knight for a while, that they've answered the call of the crown repeatedly, stood by their king, protected their king. Yeah. So let's bring that protection, which is that sense of what the aquamarine stone can denote. Protecting the king. and putting himself in harm's way as his duty to his fealty to the crown. So we'll really play on this sense of how powerful that fealty is, because then when we hit that turn and the sonnet basically says, despite that fealty, with one word from you, I would break that chain and let it fall in pieces to the ground. Sorry, I just punched the microphone. So stanza 1 and stanza 2 are going to be around building up the importance of fealty, the importance of protecting the crown and the kingdom and the land, and then the turn I think can be the fact that he would happily give that all up, or maybe it has to be if that he would give it up. And then the rhyming couplet, I love the idea of one word from her piercing his heart, and that single, basically that she has so much more power than any king or any army. There's something else to put into those first two stanzas. The ferocity of the opponents and what he has withstood in times of battle and that kind of thing. Because then, as deadly as they all are, one word from him can take his life. Because if he disappoints her, if he lets her down, he will feel worse than facing any kind of outcome from any of those other armies or the king himself, the king themselves. That's cool. Yeah. So, and that impact, that her word, that her love means so much more to him than anything else that he's ever had to face, and that he would gladly face all of that again if she needed him to utter one word. Sorry, I just punched the microphone again. Cool. All right, so stanza 1 and stanza 2 are about the ferocity of battle, the deadly force with which we face our foes. That kind of thing. Stanza 3 will be our turn. That will be the turn that we make. Cool. Stanza 3 is the turn, so that will mean basically, despite all that fealty to the crown, I would let my kingdom fall. Yeah. I would let, not my kingdom, the kingdom, because she is now his kingdom. I would let the kingdom fall if you needed me to, basically, with one word from you. With one word from you. Yeah, so we're talking when I first donned the chain of chivalry. Well, there's 10 syllables right there. That's a great starting line. And that's actually a really great starting line. When I first donned the chain of chivalry, spelling. So we need a word that rhymes with chivalry. Good work, Paul. Idiot. And if I can't find a word that rhymes with chivalry, so we're really kind of Ulri, that's going to be a tough one. I guarantee the words it pulls up here will rhyme the ry, the re sound. Oh, it's gone slightly off kilter. Cavalry, delivery, no perfect rhymes were found. So there you go. Chivalry is the orange of the medieval world. A gentle call as a contrast to the armies he faces. Yeah, I think that sense of the ferocity of battle, the volume, there's all those noises, and how ferocious all of that is, that she could whisper a word and he would let his kingdom fall. I mean, that's exactly the sort of line that I'm heading down, Richard. Yeah, that it's that contrast. We're looking for those contrasts, and so so that's exactly it. So we're going to play up all of the weight of chivalry, the weight of fealty, the ferocity of battle, and all of this stuff that he has had to face since he became a knight. And yet, one whisper would change all of it for him. He would go the other way. So chivalry is going to be a hard word to rhyme. So we may make this a little easier on ourselves and flip it. So let's look at some other versions of that phrase. So when I first donned the chain of chivalry, the chain of chivalry first wore. Oh, war and war. W-O-R-E and W-A-R. That's going to be great. Yeah, actually, I love that. I can't remember the actual word that, when the sound of the word can have multiple meanings. That's something else that works really, really well. And in a way, you're kind of cheating by using that as the rhyme, because it's a completely different context of the word, but it kind of works. It works. So we could play down that line. So when I first donned the chain of chivalry, 10 syllables. When I the chain of chivalry first wore. When I the chain of chivalry put on. Oh, I kind of like that. When I the chain of chivalry put on. Something about the weight when... you'll have to forgive me if at times I just go silent. I'm actually not used to actually writing one of these out loud so somebody can hear my chain of thoughts. It's a very different kind of process for me. Thinking the day that I first bore the fealty chain, a fealty chain. So we're talking back to that first initialness of him being a knight. So we've been able to now end our phrase with chivalry, war, on, and chain. So that gives us options to rhyme with. And they all basically mean the same thing. Basically, that first from the first day that I put this fealty chain on. And what happened after that? So we've got and felt the weight. So fealty is always, often described with weight. The weight of fealty. So I think that'd be kind of cool. So we've got the weight of fealty, the ferocity of war. So we're talking in lots of terms around pressure and pushing and weight and all of those kind of things that give us a similar feeling of tension, I guess. Well, maybe it's not the first day he bore the chain of... So, I mean, again, we're kind of playing into different phrases here, but, when basically from the first day that I put on a chain of chivalry and felt the weight, its fealty doth bear, could be its fealty, because it's not really the chain that has the fealty, it's my fealty, it's his fealty, but the chain represents that fealty. So the fealty chain represents that connection to the king and the kingdom. Yeah. Does it work when I say and felt the weight? And felt the weight. Because I kind of think... I think we could even go back to that idea of being dubbed a knife. So we've got a sword when on the battlefield. So maybe it's something on the battlefield. So you often hear of knights. Pressure is how gemstone... Yes. Oh, Richard, you're all over it. You should be writing this sonnet. Yeah, great point. Pressure is how gemstones are formed. Absolutely. So, love it. Yep. See, now you've taken me off in a whole different tangent, Richard. I love you and I hate you all at once. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Wow. Well, maybe we can bring in both stones then, actually. That's really great. So we can talk about the pressure of battle, the heat of battle, the pressure of war, and how it's formed the bloodstone of his heart. Yes. So what could the clouds represent? I kind of still like this idea of him being this battle-hardened knight that's found this gentle gemologist. Yeah, so something to think about there. Cool. So we've got the Jenny. I think we can go back now and scrap the first line in a way. So the first line, it's a starting point. So I think we go even before that. So maybe it's felt the weight of my fealty chain doth bear. I've just written and felt the weight my fealty chain doth bear. That will probably change, but it's just to get that thought out of my head. I like the idea that we don't have to get fancy with the language either. I think it's a trap that can often happen where you kind of feel like the language has to be fancy. You can actually use really simple words and really simple language to write these sonnets. That doesn't have to be, 8-syllable words from Shakespeare's dictionaries and that kind of stuff. It can be just really simple words. It's the idea and the imagery that they form. And I like, if we use that bloodstone, his heart, we get the metaphor or the simile that we can say, my bloodstone is, my heart is turned to bloodstone. So we get this sense that it's hard, it's I don't know, just I'm riffing ideas here at the moment. But I think we can harken right back when, again, from first day when I kneeled before my king, and on the battlefield he dubbed me knight. Let's just riff. The chain that he did hang about my throat. Oh, so we need to rhyme with king. So we about a boat throat. So let's go. These are just ideas at the moment, just getting a bit of an idea of how this might flow. From first day when I kneeled before my king, and on the battlefield he dubbed me knight. Clouds bring refreshing. Yeah. 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 Yeah, actually that's nice because I was thinking about rain before and the precipitation of rain. But yeah, so the refreshing, because the water is evaporated over the ocean, brought by the clouds and dropped on the woods. And so we can play with him being lost in the woods, and that she found him. That essentially he's... Yes, I mean, this could be, in part, we can possibly play into that idea of him being lost in the woods and a journey of discovery, that it was her that brought him back and now protects him. That's cool. And then we don't have to use all of these words, I think is the important thing to remember. Not all of these words, like at this point, unless I put in something about the dogs of war, we're probably not going to use dogs, unless we use something like a guard dog. Maybe not, but so not all of this is going to end up in it, but where we can make those connections, it just, again, it adds more and more depth for the particular person. So want to put as much of this in as we can, but just being clever about how we use it. So, but yeah, clouds do bring refreshing through the rain, and yeah, that sense that is brought from the sea, which connects our aquamarine and over to the woods. So yeah, something to think about. Cool. See, another word for woods is the thick. So maybe he's in the thick of battle, and like the trees, he felled the forest of foes. Felled the forest of foes is kind of cool alliteration. And felled my forest. Felled a forest of foes. I like that. So there's your woods, and we don't actually need to... Yeah. So that's an idea. Cool. So felled a forest of foes. So we're talking about being in the heat of battle and the pressure. So we're talking about the heat of battle and the pressure of war. Ooh, yeah. That did in time reveal, maybe not reveal, but bloodstone heart. And the bloodstones can be beautiful, but we can also play on the fact that he had a heart of stone from all the fights. And we're trying to allude to that idea of a heart of stone that's then melted to water. Maybe it goes from stone, you're sort of thinking blood from the stone. But I think that sense of solid and hard to liquid and water, stone, water, those contrasts there are cool as well. Yeah. So, alright, so we got these first couple of stanzas. So basically what we're saying is that over the course of becoming a knight, because he was fighting in... So, generally somebody is knighted because they are knightly. So they are protecting the crown. They are fighting in the battles, doing really well, killing lots of people, making a difference on the battlefield. And I guess knights that have been doing it a long time end up getting a hard heart to the concept of love. So partly to protect themselves from being emotionally hurt, so they kind of push their emotions down because, killing people, you kind of have to put a piece of yourself aside to be able to do that, whether it's in just circumstances, and I use air quotes deliberately, in just circumstances of war, or whether you are a thief and a criminal who stabs somebody in an alley. You have put a piece of your humanity aside to be able to do that. And so your heart becomes hard to the thoughts and concepts of love. Maybe that's the track. So after all of this, heart becomes hard to the thoughts and concepts of love, to the softness of love, to the liquid flow of love. I'm not sure if I want to talk about liquids and flowing and loving. That might go a little weird. So okay, that's cool. I think we're starting to pull this together now. I think we're getting some kind of flow on that. So basically saying from the first day that I was made a knight, being recognized by my king for my contribution to protecting the kingdom, protecting the crown, being invited to fight in more wars, to basically, I closed my heart to ever finding love. I think it's possibly something like that. Because the job declared it. Because the job required it. But, in line 9, in stanza 3 of our turn, but little did I know, little did I think, little did I believe, little did I understand that a whisper might make it all come undone. Something along those lines. So, or maybe, I think, so we'll find a way to go from something that gets hardened, like, I don't want to talk about ice, because ice, apart from, we're talking about an icy heart that's then thawed and softened to water. That's a possibility. Cool. All right. Now, if I didn't mention this at the start, these things don't get done in 5 minutes. So, I could be here for a couple of hours yet. So, and of course, basically the plan is I'll get this fleshed out to a point where I'm happy with the 14 lines as a kind of solid base. And then I will literally let it sit for a day or so and just let it play in my mind over the next couple of days. I'll come back to it. I'll visit it. And what I might do is in one of the videos in a couple of days' time, actually make that video revealing the final sonnet. Because there may be tweaks along the way. Once the main kind of body of it is written. I will sit on it for a day or two and just let it percolate. And sometimes you come up with slightly better phrasing. You'll pick up where you've used the same word in a couple of places that you might not have noticed before. That sort of thing. So, So we'll go with that. So let's go with that idea. So that when I from first day when I kneeled before my king. So we know sing, sting, ring. Oh, signet ring. He may have received a ring from the king. So maybe we could go from first day when I kneeled before my king, and on the battlefield he dubbed me knight, and handed me from his own hand a ring to make our friendship forever hella tight. No, we're not doing that. No, I think the ring takes it too much in that moment. I think every 2 lines for me kind of feels like I need to keep moving the story forward. So it's more, we get more information about the why and less about the what. So right now the what is that he's being knighted. So we don't necessarily need to hear that he was given a ring unless the ring had significant kind of meaning. The chain, fealty chain, that's a big deal. And so that could definitely be something that comes into it. So we've got that alliteration of from first day. So from first is the alliteration in that first line, which will kind of make our alliteration of a felling a forest of foes redundant, unless we can get the F's all together in one line. I don't like having repetitive alliteration of the same letter or sound. So for me, I would need to change that. And that might be something I don't pick up on the first run of it. Like I've picked it up now, but I might not pick that up on the first run. If we end up going with felled a forest of foes or felling a forest of foes. From first day when I kneeled before my king, and on the battlefield he dubbed me knight. I kind of don't feel like we can go back and talk about the forest of foes that we felled once we've been dubbed knight, because that's actually the reason for his knighting. So I kind of feel like we need to bring that in first. Almost like... I really kind of like this idea from first... that basically that moment, that we're seeing the moment that he's recognised as a knight for having done all of this work, and then he continues to do that work, and that's what hardens his heart. But I'm just a bit lost on the from first. From first day when I kneeled... From first day when I kneeled... That's clunky. From first day when I kneeled... Oh, it's because I'm not using the... From first day when I kneeled before... From first day when I kneeled before my king. So we're getting it. So what is it? So basically I'm saying from that moment. So moment, 2 syllables can replace first day. So rather than talking about the day, we can hone right in on that specific moment. From moment when I kneeled before my king. But it's not. It's not from that moment that he is doing these things. He's getting knighted because he's done these things. And we don't even need to mention the fact that he's knighted. We could play on the concept of kneeling, dubbing thrice. That whole concept of I dub thee once, I dub thee twice, I dub thee knight. That's a really common phrase. And so we don't even need to say the word knight. We can infer that he is a knight because he knelt before his king and was dubbed thrice or thrice dubbed. Dub-stepped? No, didn't dub-step. Yeah. So, yeah. But I guess it's the difference between choosing to fight for your king and country as not a knight and then being made a knight and being called into fealty, swearing fealty to your king, and then basically committing from that point on that that's what you would do, that it's now no longer a choice. It is what's going to happen. So, yeah, kind of to me, we kind of need to play on that. I almost want to say that it's a duty. It's a duty to the crown, a duty to his king. So maybe it's from that moment when I knelt before my king, and he with sword did dub my shoulders thrice. And from that day, my fealty was forsworn, something like that. I wonder what I just said. So, yeah, I think that he was called by his king from moment. I think hone in on the moment. There's more meaning in a moment than a day. Yeah. That moment when my king did bid me kneel. So that's another opportunity to start. So then we've got kneel that we would be. That moment when my king did bid me kneel. Yeah, that's 10. So when we're talking rhyming with kneel, we've got steal, seal, fate did seal. There we go, fate did seal. We get that fate, which I love. The moment that my king did bid me kneel. The moment that my king did bid me kneel, and round my throat he placed his fealties. And on my, I think, kind of throat rather than shoulders. I love the idea of being choked, like that. But fealty shouldn't be like feeling like you're choked, though, is the thing. That the moment that my king did bid me kneel, and on my shoulders fealty's chain was draped. Ooh, draped. I like that word. Oh, we're talking about fate. Draped. Kind of scraped. Well, draped might not be a good word to rhyme with. Let's have a look at draped. Shape. Ah, my fate was shaped. Yep. Egg-shaped. Escaped. Videotaped. Maybe not videotaped. Yeah. Ah. So let's go with kneel. What rhymes with kneel? Beal, bell, beal, creel, deal, heel, meal, peel, steel, sword, steel. Yeah, so you get that sense of, and you get a steely condition. And you could say to steal something, which is to thieve it, or to steel up, which is to affirm it, to make it firmer. That the moment that my king did bid me kneel, and on my shoulders fealty's chain was draped. my homage was then sealed upon his steel. No. Seal, kneel. So we don't want seal because we've got steel and kneel. So let's go with steel. What if we double played the steel? My homage then was steeled upon his steel. That's S-T-E-E-L, isn't it? That's steel. To steal something up. Where's dictionary.com? To steal it up. Because we're talking about the metal of steel. Steel being... Yeah. Let's see if Shakespeare uses steel in that way. I always like to try and reference, if I can. So what's that? Stand. So a little bit further. We need STE. I'm sure that I think it works. I think it works. STEEEE. Steel. Refined and hardened iron. Yep. Emblem of hardness. There we go. Denoting weapons or armor. Steel, to make hard. Steel my lance's point. Yes, I knew there was some references there. Steeled, made of steel. Steely, made of steel. Figuratively, hard, firm, yeah. I love that. And steeled upon his steel. My homage then was steeled upon his steel. As in his sword, which I like. I like that imagery rather than it just being... what do we say? Draped? Draped. Rhyme zone. Tired. It's been a big day for me. I had a day of filming this morning, shooting some videos with a friend for some training that he wanted to kind of impart to some people. Scraped, yeah, chaped, gaped, shaped. No. Yes. We've had kneel and steel, draped and shaped. Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking my homage was then steeled upon his steel, and future of my heart forever shaped. That's got potential. And future of my heart forever shaped. Because then we get to say at the turn, but then, or something like that. So, the moment that my king did bid me kneel, and on my shoulders fealty's chain was draped, my homage then was steeled upon his steel, and future of my heart forever shaped. For crown and kingdom only did I live. Yes! For crown and kingdom only did I live. All thoughts of love did scape. He says, don't get fancy with words, and then he's using words like scape instead of escaped. kind of like the idea of for crown and kingdom only did I live, and all thought of love did scape. What? And we haven't done felling the foes, but maybe, and maybe all thought of love basically diminished more and more with every foe he killed for king and country. So we talk about here how hard his heart went without having to actually... So bloodstone. Let's... what was the humours? Blood was fiery. Blood. Let's go blood. The fluid which circulates through the arteries and veins. Flesh and blood, in blood. A term of the chase. Serving to denote relation and that's right. So it's so you got melancholy. I just did the humours the other night. Melancholy, choleric, sanguine, and I need to look up my own video. Crap. Blood can also mean a young man, a spirited fellow. His blood runs hot. That's what we talk about, isn't it? Blood running hot. So it's hot-tempered and disposition, temper. There you go. Symbol of the fleshly nature of man, all frailties that besiege all kinds of blood. My sportive blood, nor gives it satisfaction to our blood, to our very being. The strongest oaths are straw to the fire in the blood. Ooh, I like that. The fire in the blood. Do we have bloodstone? We don't have a bloodstone in here either. Cool. So we got blood, fiery blood, the bloodstone. Let's say the bloodstone of my heart. I love that because we get the reference, the Shakespearean reference, well, the medieval reference to blood being fiery and hot and warlike. And, yeah. And then the stone. And then we get that connection to bloodstone, which is an early period gemstone for March. So that ties that in as well, which is really cool. So maybe it's actually for crown and kingdom only did I live, and there was never any potential to give thought to love, because not that it escaped the well, let's actually, and any thought of, so we're going to talk about, so basically for crown and kingdom only did I live, which is great because we get to imply those royal personages again without repeating the word king, which is great. So I love that. So that the moment that my king did bid me kneel, and on my shoulders fealty's chain was draped, my homage then was steeled upon his steel. Man, I love that phrase. And future of my heart forever shaped. For crown and kingdom only did I live. No longer. Yeah. So basically at that point, there was never any chance. No longer to give what? To give something, some kind of measure here. We're talking some kind of no longer to give thought, measure, opportunity, condition, and almost like a moment to thoughts of love. And there's a really cool thing with love because of the way that RP, correct pronunciation, the actual proper pronunciation back in the time, love often sounded like move. So love and move, so louv, it would have been pronounced kind of more like that. So you'll often see love and move as rhyming words in sonnets and couplets and that sort of stuff, because of the way that they pronounce the words then. So if we want to throw a little harken back and cheat a little, we can use the word love, and then, you know, in that final line, basically talk about how steadfast that is and that it was never, ever, ever going to move. So this, you know, no longer to give something to thoughts of love. And I'll find a word. We'll go into thesaurus.com and find, you know, when we're talking the basest word, it's thought. So we'll find, you know, or opportunity. And so we'll look for a word that means something but fits the syllable structure that we require. And it has to be probably one syllable if we go with thoughts. So we could go no longer to give thought to something of love, or no longer to give something thoughts of love. And is there a word here that we can play on? Purity of spirit and soul. That's all going to come in. That's all stuff about her. And see, we've kind of lost the protection bit, but but he's kind of going out to protect his king. The moment that my king did bid me kneel, and on my shoulders fealty's chain was draped, my homage then was steeled upon his steel, and future of my heart forever shaped. For crown and kingdom only did I live, no longer to give in, to have, to allow. It's almost to allow. It's almost that idea of I chose to shut love out at that point. And something and I'm thinking I really want and see, now I've got F's and I've got future of my heart forever shaped. And if we end up using the sort of felling the foes, the ferocious foes, there may be other words that we can use to get that alliteration. I want some alliteration there for when I'm essentially cutting down the trees. But felling foes, I love that. It gives you that sense of cutting down trees. And I think... and I can change that other line. So instead of "and future of my heart forever shaped," let's take the F's out of there. I mean, forever might stay. It's just about getting rid of the alliteration. So, we could just say "and ever" rather than "and future." And ever was my heart not shaped. So it's not it's not shaped, doesn't fit. So what's another word for draped? Let's find it. Because I kind of like the idea of forever, that it was an idea that so I need to change that word, which means I need to change the word draped. So let's go to thesaurus.com. So basically what I'm thinking is, at that point, "and ever was my heart forever." So we get the assonance of ever and ever, and that kind of storytelling, forever and ever, they lived happily and ever after, that kind of thing. So, "and ever was my heart forever something." Single syllable. It's definitely got to be a nice kind of plosive, kind of shaped. It's kind of strong, and it's got to be a strong word, which would mean that we need to change the word draped. So we need to find a word that replaces shaped, that will rhyme with a word that we replace the word draped with. So the first word we need to start with potentially is draped. So let's go to thesaurus.com. And let's put in draped, or drape, singular. Cloak, cloaked. Clothed, covered, dangled, hanged, sprawled, swathed, dressed. On this page, if you scroll down, it gives you other contexts of the word. It gives you some opposites as well. So array, as in dress in fine clothes. So words related to drape, array. So was I attired? That's not going to work. Was placed? Placed is possible. Could be placed is just so it's just so not like draping something. It gives the very thing you're talking about a sense of opulence as well, which I really like. So I don't think we want placed. I think it's got to be a word that has that same kind of feeling, like fabric being draped, something of opulence being draped over something. So it's got to be something a little bit more like that. Or it could be flipped. It could be a descriptive word about your shoulders. So that moment that the king did bid me kneel, and felt his chain was so it's like, and you basically place the chain on, and felt his chain was, rather than chain being draped, the chain was, it could still be draped, and then we don't have shaped anyway to rhyme with. But then, so around my neck, upon, neck. Let's find a rhyming word for neck. I don't like neck as a word. It's sort of taking that, it takes the word. It needs the line needs to feel like it's got a little bit of something regal about it. Like it's a big deal being knighted. There is a ceremony. There is it's a big deal, and so you really need to. It needs to have that kind of opulence about it. So if we say, and felt his chain was draped about my neck, overhead, and was draped on my shoulders. Draped still feels like a great word. I can leave it, idiot. And on my shoulders fealty chain was draped. My homage was then steeled upon his steel, and ever was my heart forever shaped. We've lost the alliteration of the F's, which was our original intent. Right there was to get rid of the F's. And ever was my heart forever shaped. That's perfect. And so now it's taken it from the alliteration of the F's to the assonance of the ever. And that's much better. Well, that's done the job. I'm worrying about losing this line and I don't need to. Great. So stanza 1. The moment that my king did bid me kneel, and on my shoulders fealty's chain was draped. Still a bit clunky there. My homage was then steeled upon his steel, and ever was my heart forever shaped. So we've basically gone from that point on. I was closing myself off to love. For crown and kingdom only did I live. And we can make these next 3 lines almost like one long thought, and so that the second line runs into the third line, or in that sense of and never would I ever give, and never would I further give thought to the idea of falling in love, in something like that. But I really want to bring in the felling the forest of foes. So let's copy that from up the top, because we know So maybe it's actually not about, at this point, talking about the heart. Maybe it's about... Ooh. For crown and kingdom only did I live, and made a bloodstone of my something heart. With every foe I felled. Yeah. So maybe... Oh, sorry. I keep bumping that microphone. I think bloodstone of... I think the bloodstone heart needs to be the thing that ends this. It's basically, I had shut my heart out to anything but killing people. It was just, I had to do it. Yeah. All right. So these 3 lines are going to be talking about, we want to try and tie in the concept of a bloodstone heart. So essentially a heart that has turned to stone. Because it gives us that reference to the March stone as well, which I kind of like. We want to talk about felling a forest of foes. Field. See, fields feel open. Forest gives you plenty of targets. Yeah, I know the phrasing of that now, because now it's becoming a reference point and the reason that he shut his heart off. So for crown and kingdom only did I live. I mean, that could be the last line. From that point, that could be the last line, so it doesn't have to be the first line. So it might be from that day forth. We haven't used day yet, have we? No. From that day forth. So we're talking now about what he'd set his mind to. So how do we tie in felling a forest of foes? Felled a forest of foes is 6. So I've got 4 syllables left if I use that in a line. And it's kind of it messes with the rhythm. Felled a forest of foes. Felled is quite a strong word. So if I'm using I felled, so if I was going to use that as part of iambic, it needs to be the second syllable. I felled a forest of foes for kingdom's crown. I felled a forest... A forest of foes did fall beneath my axe, my sword. You shall have my sword. No, he says axe. You shall have my axe. A forest of foes was felled beneath my feet, even. That's cool. A forest of foes was felled. It's kind of beneath my feet, by my sword. What's the word I want to rhyme with? I like that as a line. So we can take the colouring off of that. So I coloured yellow earlier, the draped and shaped, thinking in my brain I needed to change them, but that's all good. I'm just going to highlight that first stanza in green. I'm pretty set on that. There might be some slight variations to it later. But for the moment, I'm happy to lock that in as pretty well done. The moment that my king did bid me kneel, and on my shoulders fealty, and on my chest was feel. I'm not happy with shoulders, fealties, chain. I'm going to pop that in red as something to come back to. But I love the concept of the fealty chain being draped. And fealty chain upon my shoulders draped. The moment that my king did bid me kneel, and fealty chain on my... And fealty's chain upon my shoulders draped. Getting those two words away from each other. That makes it a little busy. And fealty's chain, wasn't it? And fealty's chain upon my shoulders draped. The moment that my king did bid me kneel, and fealty's chain upon my shoulders draped. No, let's go. And fealty's chain he on. Thanks, Richard. No worries, man. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for hanging around. Thanks for your suggestions. They were really useful. And fealty's chain he then. Or no, just he on. And fealty's chain he on my shoulders draped. So it connects it back to the king. I love that. Yeah, great. So there you go. So you talk about ditching a line and then you come up with a solution. So, the moment that my king did bid me kneel, and fealty's chain he on my shoulders draped, my homage was then steeled upon his steel, and ever was my heart forever shaped. So good! I love that. Beneath my wrath. No. It's not wrath. He didn't do it out of anger. He did it out of duty. Felled a forest of foes. I felled a forest. I felled a forest of foes. I felled a forest of foes. I think we can even go fell. A forest of foes fell beneath. That's better. Except we've kind of got a trochee happening there. No, not really. No, not at all. A forest fell. See, fell also means anger. Is it anger? Not really anger. It's like, what's the definition of that when it's used in that way? You know, when it's like, I'm not sure if you know what I'm talking about, but that idea of, fierce. Yeah. Oberon is passing fell and wrath. Yeah, so it's fierce, savage, cruel, pernicious. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So it doesn't. Yeah, I suppose it wrath, but maybe we can use something. A forest. Well, maybe we could call them fell foes. A forest of fell foes. I don't want to say fell again. A forest of fell foes. Did I did, we did. It's all about him, can't be we, it has to be I. What's another word for timbering? Not timbering. You know, the idea of something falling, crashing. Well, let's thesaurus that and see what we come up with in the way of fall. Collapse. Oh yeah. Slump, dwindle, tumbled. Here's a thought. I'm thinking the word timber that is called out when somebody cuts down a tree. And the word timbre, Timbre, being the sound, the resonance, the timbre of a voice. So it's the sound of something. And whether or not we can say that a forest of foes fell at the timbre of my sword. So that we can kind of get that play on words in that. A forest of foes fell at the timbre. Timber would need to be the last syllable. So yeah, okay, cool. So we got this idea of a forest of foes was felled. A timber of the sword. I love that. That's a cool kind of idea. Forest of foes. Forest of foes. What do we got? What do we got? Forest of fell foes. Yes, a little. This isn't coming together. Maybe I just need to kill my baby and move on. Maybe the forest of fell foes is just not going to work. At the timbre of my sword a forest of foes fell. At the timbre of my sword a forest. So we can always go into the second line because it doesn't have to end at the end of the line. It can have... I mean, that's very possible. And I kind of... Let's go that. At the timbre, Timbre, not ER. At the timbre of my sword, a forest. At the timbre of my sword, a forest. It's very clunky. A forest of foes fell at the timbre. So is there anything that rhymes with timber? Imber, climber, limber, mimber. No. So we don't want timber to be the end. No words of use rhyme with timber. Limber, not what I'm looking for. They've got kimber, kimber, mimber, nimber, unlimber. No, those words do not rhyme. Words and phrases that almost rhyme. Yeah, not good enough. So let's not end the line with timber. So timber needs to not be... At timber of my sword a forest of foes fell. At the timber of my sword. At the timber of my sword a forest. And it kind of... At the timbre of my sword, a forest of foes fell. So it bleeds on to the next line. Let's go with that and see what happens. Of foes fell. So that's 3. So that leaves us 7 syllables on that line. We need to rhyme. So then we want to try and get this second line possibly. So for crown and kingdom only did I live, kind of is that definitive thing that there was nothing else. There was nothing else. I kind of like that as a line in itself, that for crown and kingdom only did I live, because then our turn happens and we get to say, but then a whisper came across the room, and not a word did utter from your lips. Your aqua eyes. The blue. Aqua's kind of blue. Yeah, cool. At the timber of my sword, a forest of foes fell. So that's one sentence, but it's 13 syllables across 2 lines. At the timber of my sword, a forest of foes fell. And I'll have to put a comma after sword so that people know to take a breath. And no punctuation after forest so they know to continue through. At the timber of my sword, a forest of foes fell. Blump, blump, blump. Blump, 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 blump. And we're actually kind of playing straight because it's almost like a trochee, that second line there, because we're starting with of. A forest of foes fell. Oh, no, maybe it's not. At the timber of my sword, a forest of foes fell. Of foes. No, foes is definitely the stronger, so that's definitely still iambic. That's cool. At the timber of my sword, a forest of foes fell. The bloodstone of my heart. See, I'm so good at writing 10-syllable lines. Forest. Oh, see, now we need to rhyme. Forest. What was I thinking? Let's go rhyme zone. Forest. What do they suggest? Because I'm not thinking of anything from forest. Chorus. Wrist. Forest. Wrist. It's not great. Saurus. No. Not a fan. Not a fan. Let's go. What if we swap that? Well, we lose the alliteration though. Sometimes I'm an idiot. Rest. The bloodstone of my heart would have no rest. Yes. The bloodstone of my heart would have no rest. So that's the third line. So that rhymes with forest. At the timber of my sword, a forest of foes fell. That line is going to feel so disjointed, and I kind of want to feel like that's how he feels in war, that it's just this. So what's live? Rhymes with live, give. In period, you could almost go achieve because it's almost like leave, live. You could go live, even though it's spelt live. even though we say live, you can, with the spelling of it, I could get live and hive and let's see what else we can get. Chive, Clive, dive, 5, glaive. That's just because it ends in IVE, I'm sure. Jive, thrive, thrive. That's the one. No love within my soul would ever thrive. It's 10. So we've got spirit, purity of soul here for her. Wooded. What's wooded? Wood. What's the idea of wooded? I know it's like... How is that used? I'm sure I've heard that used. Wooded. Double O, and then O-P-Q-R-S-T-U-V, and then O-P. It's not too far back. Wood. Wood. O-N-O. Wood. Woodbine, woodbird, woodcock, wooden. No. Woodland. Wood leaves. Well, maybe I actually just make that 7 more syllables. Upon. Da. So it just needs 7 more syllables. So maybe I actually just make that, rather than ending the sentence that at fell, actually just make it continue on to a 13 syllable line. Of foes fell at the timber of my sword a forest of foes fell. Yeah, I'm not sold on that line. I'm not sold on it. I can take out the word at. The timber of my sword did fell a forest full of foes. Yeah. Maybe that's nicer. The timber of my sword did fell a forest. Timber of my sword did fell a forest. That's 11 syllables in that line. And I know Shakespeare did that from time to time. Forest. The timber of my sword did fell a forest. So I don't want it to necessarily have to end on that line. Don't even need the... I'm kind of sold on forest now, because I've got the bloodstone of my heart would have no rest, for crown and kingdom only did I live. So this line has to end with an IVE. So whether it's give, strive, because that was common. Because again, the IVE phonetically would have been pronounced the same. And probably more like strive and leave. Forest of fell foes did fall. So I can change to have no rest. That doesn't matter. Beneath. And we've got eath, neath, wreath. I don't like that either. Not a massive fan. The timber of my sword. Oh, I'm so sorry. The timber of my sword did feel. I think. Okay, I need to go. So the bloodstone of my heart. Heart. So give. I mean, the obvious rhyme with live is give. I think I might change this rhyming structure, not structure, the words. So rather than forest, I need to. Let's finish that. Live and reprieve. That's one that could potentially work. So I'm playing here with the couple of different words. So rather than the forest of foes fell, fearful foes did fall, gives me that alliteration, and I can then bring the forest into it. I'm sort of thinking fearful foes did fall, however we do that. But like forest trees, the axeman gives no reprieve, that kind of thing. So that we can then kind of tie that in with the live. And again, I can flip this back again to the start, so it may actually make more sense to say the bloodstone of my heart would have no rest, for crown and kingdom only did I live. Fearful foes did fall, 10 men abreast. like forest trees, the axeman gives reprieve, or something like that, you know. So we can flip the order of it again, if needs be. And I actually think there's probably more power in the crown and kingdom only did I live line being either the first line of the stanza or the last line of the stanza, not in the middle. I think it's too powerful a statement. So if we go with that being the first line, in like it was originally, and this is the thing, you know, you're playing with concepts, you're playing with ideas, you're running structure through and words that rhyme and all sorts of things. So the timbre of my sword did feel a forest. No, that's horrible. I still love the timbre of the sword. I think that that idea of the sound of somebody calling timber when a tree falls, you know, timber, and then converting the resonance of that to the resonance of a sword, calling it the timbre or the sound that your sword makes, is a wonderful connection point, and I love that. I'd love to keep that if I can. What if we went did fall beneath the timber of my sword? So that means that sword is the last line. Sword is the last word. And then a really great thing about sword is you can rhyme it with the word word. So, but you also have accord, discord, ford, fjord. We're going to go back. I'm just going to say was. So, the moment that my king did bid me kneel, and fealty's chain was on my shoulders draped, my homage was then steeled upon his steel. Well, let's put these shoulders rather than my shoulders, because I don't want to have my then my. So, the moment that my king did bid me kneel, and fealty's chain was on these shoulders draped, my homage then was steeled upon his steel, and ever was my heart forever shaped. Well, that's cool. From crown and kingdom only did I live. The bloodstone of my heart would have no rest. Kind of like that. What if we went something like... See, I love the idea of for crown and kingdom only did I live, because it says there is nothing else as important. And so to change that to word in some way, so maybe crown and kingdom had my every word, just doesn't have the same kind of weight to it that you know, for only did I live. So, and again, rest being... Ooh, there we go. There's the word. Would hear no word. Yeah. For crown and kingdom only did I live. The bloodstone of my heart would hear no word. My only thought. We haven't got thought in there anywhere at all, do we? My only thought to fell our fearsome foes. My only thought to fell our fearsome foes, and something about blah 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 blah, the timber of my sword. So yeah, here we go. So every now and again it just pops and you get it. For crown and kingdom only did I live, the bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. My only thought to fell our fearsome foes. And make them fear the timber of my sword. And make them fear the timber of my sword. That's not bad. It's a good start. So I'm thinking this idea that if I can find a slightly better way to put in there that he had no intention at all, ever, of leaving the warfield. Ever. So my only thought to face our fields of foes? No. Now I'm playing with ridiculous moments that aren't as good. Because to fell our fearsome foes is a specific phrase that you fell a tree. You know, that's a forestry phrase. Like trees. You don't go out to fell your foes. You go out to kill your foes. But in this idea that I'm going out there to, you know, that here we go. We can get the forest back in because we're ending with foes. Well, we can't end with foes because we have live. But I can change that to no. Something up there, so we can change that. So I love fearsome foes. So not my only thought to fell our fearsome foes. No thought, but no. I'm thinking something to fell the forest of our foes, which makes more sense to use the word forest. And we're back at, that's 8. I could start with that as one thought, one goal. It's got to be naught else but fell the forest of our foes and make them fear the timber of my sword. I like that. Naught else but fell. For crown and kingdom only did I... I mean, that's easy enough to change. Crown and kingdom is all that I did know. That's an easy one to kind of get the no in there. So we'll put that as yellow because we're not completely sold on that yet. And I think the bloodstone of my heart could hear no word rather than would hear no word. I think it's just so wrapped up in war that there's no, like, it can't hear anything else but the sound of felling fearsome foes, a forest of fearful foes. So, oh, yeah, because then that plays on the idea of dropping the whole tone to a whisper. So the ferocity, the sound, the clashing of war. So if we go for Crown and Kingdom, all that I did. No, I thought I was one short. We'll fix that in a minute. So Crown and Kingdom, all that I did know, the bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. Maybe it's really clear. Maybe go one noise. I don't like it. Maybe it's only. Oh. Oh, that could be cool. So we've got the bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. Here only to play axeman to our foes and make them fear the timber of my sword. So take out forest, ditch the alliteration, kill your baby. Here only to be axeman to my foes and make them fear the timber of my sword. So we get the idea of a forest in there without saying forest. Yes, we lose our alliteration, but that idea again, that sense of kind of simile, metaphor, the imagery that it creates by going, I'm only here to be an axeman to my foes, and make them fear the timber of my sword. How good is that? That's actually really great. So there you go. What are we? Holy cow! 2.5 hours in. 2.5 hours in, and there you go. So we're doing all right. And I have said it before. What I charge for these sonnets is nowhere near enough for the amount of time I put into them, and the skill involved. Like, let's be honest. All right. So I kind of like that. So here only to be axeman to my foes. Let's green that sucker up and make them fear the timber of my sword. So we're going sword foes. We're going to go no for, so no and go foes. So the plural is sometimes not worried about. So the fact that it's a singular no and a plural foes can still be done. It's okay, because it's the O, really, the O sound that you are rhyming, not necessarily the O's. But that said, I could definitely get another O's sound in there. I could make it plural and reword it. So nose, prose, close, doze, froze. I mean, there's heaps of options there. And I think I will end up changing that. I'll find a different way to word that. It may be that I take crown and kingdom out, and it may be just that I talk about anyone and everyone. So we're kind of generalizing all of the people, that basically there is no one that, well, actually that would really work. That basically there was no one that I would listen to, because then it would, like, the bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. I like that, and that's probably a phrase I'll keep. What have I done? Stop highlighting. And so I'll probably change that first line. Yeah, I'll probably change that first line to be something more generic around multiple people, lots of people, anyone that tried to talk to me. I didn't listen to them. I didn't care. There was nothing. It was nothing. Just boom, done. For crown and kingdom only did I live. Right. So we've got 3 lines of that stanza locked in pretty well. So something about I may even play into the fact that this is a poem and use verse and prose. None who came to speak their verse or prose. No, I mean something like that. But it could be something along the line. So I'll find a word, phrase, a line that basically kind of means that people tried to talk to me. That people tried to talk to me, but the bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. Here only to be axeman to my foes, which I love that kind of, I'm not here. The bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. Here only to be axeman to my foes. I like that. The bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. Here only to be axeman to my foes, and make them fear the timber of my sword. So, that works. So then I'll work out that first line and come back to that. And it may be something that I come back to periodically over the course of writing the rest of this. So, I like the idea that we have something hard and solid that is impenetrable. But we know that water always wins. Always wins. Oh, okay. So we need to go. I've just had a bit of a mind moment. I'm just going to make a note here that protecting crown and kingdom basically is the thing that it may actually be that this becomes a 3 stanza and the turn doesn't happen till the rhyming couplet, because I think the 3rd stanza can now almost play into the fact that he never thought. No, I think we've covered that. What my thought was that perhaps the 3rd stanza is really a statement around the fact that this idea that he never thought that anything else was possible, that he never thought that anybody else was there was anything else to think about. But I think we're going to cover that off by basically saying the bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. I was here only to be axeman to my foes and make them fear the timber of my sword. I was just here to fight. That's all I was here for. I was just a fighter. I'm a fighter, not a lover. I think that covers it. I don't think we need to play another whole stanza about that. So it's just that I need to play with that 2nd stanza to really kind of nail hard the concept that there was nothing else. That is everything. There was never going to be any other thing that could penetrate his heart, his mind, his soul. Ah, yes. That idea of my heart, my mind, my soul, my mind and soul in one accord did grow. The bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. So maybe here only in this line can go. So if we did this, and see, this is what happens. I go to leave a stanza and I come back to it. Let's get an orange color. Just so you know, I'm coloring the lines green if I'm happy with it and think I'm going to move on. If I have any doubt, I'll go back and color that section yellow, kind of like traffic lights. And if there's anything that I need to really pop out, I just find a different color to make it go, come back to this and check it out. That this might be a good idea. So I've got that currently in a bright kind of pinky purple sort of color. So I'm sort of now thinking this phrase could be, my mind and soul in one accord did grow. The bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. No sense of love, just axemen to my foes to make them fear the timber of my sword. So something like that, where it's there is no emotion. There's nothing. No thought, no feeling, no nothing. Yeah, so maybe that can go yellow as well. No thoughts of love, just axemen to my foes. Like this whole, like, it's almost like, you know, I've just said bloodstone, so we've got stone in there, we've got this hardness in the phrasing. The bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. No thoughts of love, just axemen to my foes. Go purple in there again. And we'll change that to 2. So now we've gone grow, foes, word, sword, sword. My mind and soul in one accord did grow. The bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. No thoughts of love, just axemen to my foes, and make them fear the timber of my sword. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. But just like aqua, love will have its way. Yeah. So that idea that water always wins, like it will find a way through the rock. A trickle to erode. Something. It'll erode something. ... Or maybe it's a trickle that erodes into a stream. Stream and dream, that's always good. And that idea that it will win. But just like aqua, love will have its way. A trickle that erodes into a stream. Because it's not, so the idea in that phrasing is not that a trickle kind of finds its way to a stream. It's the fact that the water, the aqua, erodes the rock away so much that trickle eventually becomes a stream in that location, because it's just worn away so much of the rock that it can't hold back the dam anymore. Yeah, so rather than just flowing into a stream, erodes that. I think a trickle that erodes into a stream. Yeah, that's kind of cool. So what else do we need to put in here? So we've used, so we've definitely got the bloodstone and the aquamarine stuff in. Not really the aquamarine, but definitely aqua. So that's the favourite colour that's in. We've definitely got knights in, and it's really simple. I'm going to actually make... I'm thinking throughout this whole process of where to use mistress. And often it would be his, she is the mistress. And I'm kind of thinking that he needs to be the mistress of her heart. That when he's with her, all the walls are gone. That he can feel safe without the armor. That she is his protector. So, have we got gems in there? Yeah, we've got the bloodstone in there. We've got the aqua, but not quite the aquamarine. We've kind of got the essence of the pressure of war. Yeah, I kind of feel... I always deliver an explanation around the thinking of the phrases as well, so that people can get a sense of how their words led me to that phrase, so that they understand that connection, and that actually gives them a deeper understanding when they read it. Well, actually, this line here is talking about the pressure of war. The pressure comes from this idea that, Richard threw out in the comments there about, pressure creating gems. And, I'm sure that we can get, some kind of reference to another gem or something in there. But I kind of like the water being aquamarine kind of gives you... Yeah. So, anyway. And I think the idea of a trickle of water can be equated to a whisper of words. That a trickle is something small, light, it's not forceful, and that a whisper can have the same effect. But just like aqua, love will have its way, a trickle that erodes into a stream. The whispers from your lips did find my dreams. Pierce. Let's go back to the war analogy. The whispers from your lips did pierce my dreams. That's going to have to be the fourth line. What do we say? Pierce my dreams. So we need to rhyme with way. So we've got, day, sway, play, fray, fray being battle. So maybe something that's taken him from the fray. Yeah, okay, so as much as I love the whispers from your lips did pierce my dreams, again, this idea of moving the story forward, I like this idea that, but just like aqua, love will have its way, a trickle that erodes into a stream. I really love that balance. I love the fact that it's a softer sound, like we've got lots of plosives up the top there. My soul... my mind and soul in one accord did grow. The bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. Hear only no thoughts of love, just axemen to my foes, to make them fear the timber of my sword. Like, it's violent speech. And then we come down here and we've got this soft subtleness of a trickle and a whisper. But just like aqua, love will have its way. And if you think about that, there are only two plosive sounds in that whole line, the T's and the K. So this, but just like aqua, love will have its way, and the T there again, but it's soft, the T and the it's. Like, it's a soft sentence. It sounds soft. And that's love having its way. It's soft, it's generous, it's kind. A trickle that erodes into a stream. And that first line, it feels like a trickle to me. So I think this idea that being that he's got a new battle. And the new battle is pleasing her. Let's just write that. Pleasing you is now my only fray. That's a great line. And so the whispers from your lips did pierce my dreams. I will hold that line for another sonnet somewhere else at some point, because it's not going to fit now. So we need to keep this idea going about pleasing her. And then the rhyming couplet at the end will be a simple statement of his love for her. But just like aqua, love will have its way, a trickle that erodes into a stream. Pleasing you is now my only fray. In life, in love, in hope, in all your dreams. So basically, anywhere that you are, my job is to make you happy. That's the only challenge I have now. But just like aqua, love will have its way. A trickle that erodes into a stream. Pleasing you is now my only fray, in life, in love, in hope, in all your dreams. I like it. I like it. And I kind of don't like the fact that I've used the word love 3 times in this sonnet, but it is a love sonnet, and so sometimes that's just going to happen. If I can find another word to replace love in the first line of this sonnet, this stanza, I will. But just like aqua will have its way, a trickle that erodes into a stream. Because it kind of says that she loved him first. I don't know if that's true. And I don't know... Yeah, I don't know if that's true. So it might not work. But the other thing that happens is once this is written, it'll go to the person that's purchased it to get feedback. So there's a couple of rounds, essentially, of what we call rewrites. I mean, you could call it rewrites. Is probably the easiest way. But revision, reviews, whatever you want to call it. Like if you're in agency world, it's reviews or... is it reviews? Yeah, reviews or something like that. But... It's late. I've been going for almost 3 hours straight now. It's yeah. Anyway, as I'm starting to fade. But just like aqua, love will have its way. And I think it needs to be love. I don't know that it can be anything else. Hope could be hope, but then we've got hope in the last line as well. So well, let's go to thesaurus.com. And let's see what it says and offers up as other options to love. Emotion, fondness, friendship, lust, passion, respect, taste, tendering, amity, amour, adore. No. Love. I think it's love. I think it's plain and simple. Because it's love. And honestly, when you think about the... when you think about the the way that we think as humans, so love will find a way. I mean, that's what it talks about, and that's essentially kind of what I've said here without even realizing that's what I was saying to start with. I think it has to be that. It can't change. So maybe in life, in something, in hope, in all your dreams. I mean, that could become waking, sleeping, something in your dreams. But, dreams is kind of a sleep, so that'd become redundant as well. So in life, in love, in hope, I mean, they're all very different sort of things. And we get that the build of that is nice. In life, in love, in hope, in all your dreams. Yeah, I like it. And I like the way it's phrased, because I'm just in my head, I'm thinking, well, what if it was, in hope? Yeah, no, I think it's fine how it is. So now the rhyming couplet. I'm actually pretty happy with that stanza as it is. I love the imagery of the trickle becoming a stream, which is often how love is, Well, sometimes it's the other way around. There's a lot of lust, which is very forceful, that then turns into love. But sometimes, and often love starts with just a moment that makes you go, oh. And then that grows and that grows and that grows. And then eventually you wake up and you don't know why, but you just love this person. And so, yeah, I love that imagery. I love how that looks and how it feels and how it sounds. I think that's pretty cool. Okay. Rhyming couplet. So here I think we need to, or maybe this is where we can talk about the piercing, and we can talk about the whispers. No. So this just has to be. It's not the turn. So when the turn is the rhyming couplet at the end, it's kind of taking the summary of everything that was, and flips it in that moment, and it says essentially, what you'll find is that, look, all of these things are true, all of these things are true, all of these things are true, except for now. Now, none of that matters because of you. We've kind of just done that in that stanza. That I was a man of war. I had no other thoughts but war. I thought of nothing but that. I thought of nothing but killing and death and destruction. But then you found a way in, and I like that. I like that a lot. So now, because of this, really this is almost the rhyming couplet here that has to end this sonnet is not the turn. It's essentially, it becomes more, and what I find is that it's not an extension of the third stanza. It often feels like it is a 2-line summary of the entire sonnet, or a 2-line version of everything that you felt in those first 3 stanzas. It's really a summary, more concise summary of how this person now feels. It was like, you could tell me in 12 lines, or you could tell me in 2 lines. And I mean, it's an extension of the thought, don't get me wrong. You'll continue, like, it's not going to be redundant. It has to take everything that we know now to a whole new depth, to a new level of, like, this has to now show a much deeper sense of love than the last stanza. How we do that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. So we talked earlier about the idea of the mistress having to be a part of this, and so that idea of him now being the mistress to her heart. Now, did we use heart earlier? We did, didn't we? Neil draped steel. Great. Not in just when we mentioned the bloodstone of my heart. So now we're talking about and this line isn't perfect, but I'm curious to see what it does and how it plays out. And the line basically that I've written there is, to ever be the mistress to your heart. So 10 syllables, to ever be the mistress to your heart. And that idea of, well, if he's not the mistress of her heart, it's like well, and maybe it's just and ever be the mistress of your heart. So we'll play with both. So maybe we hearken back to the start where we had that fealty oath to the king. So if we're going to end with heart, the first line of the rhyming couplet has to end with an art sound. What do we got? We talked about aquavitae, storms of life. Art part, heart part, never to depart. Ooh, maybe. What does homage really mean? Like, I have a sense of what it means. I've just written the word down to use, but I'm not sold on it. So let's get a definition of that. It is allegiance, deference, loyalty, reverence, tribute, Yeah, and when you pay homage to someone, you pay tribute to them. That's kind of what I was thinking. And you give them reverence. And so I was thinking now, my homage now. My homage now doth lie in all your parts. I'll ever be the mistress to your heart. That's kind of cool. I kind of like it. I really like that first line, that my homage now doth lie in all your parts. There is a little bit of a sexual reference there, which is kind of a nice double entendre that I had not realised until that moment. But it's that double meaning, that sense of, everything that I do now revolves around everything of you. And by saying that he'll be the mistress to her heart, he's essentially putting himself at, we often talk about, the mistress, not in someone having an affair terms, but a mistress being, essentially the lady being the second in the relationship. The men always go first and they have the more important role or the more, valuable station and status. And so they from a status point of view, they are the ones that get to be in the lead. And what he's saying is that I will put myself second to you in everything. And holy crap, I actually really like that. I think that's it. I think I'll ever be the mistress to your heart. I mean, I like it. I actually really like it. My homage now doth lie in all your parts. There's a great little double entendre there. Double meaning in it. There's a double meaning in that. I'll ever be the mistress to your heart. I don't think I need to change that. Boom. Done. All right. So, there we go. Still a little bit of work to do on our second stanza. Let me just copy and paste this out to another section of this document so that I can put it all together and read it as one complete piece, and see how it flows and see how it sounds. I mean, there's always that weirdness when you sort of jump from one context to another. I kind of... So we didn't really get... Well, we kind of did get the protection in there. So let's go. Okay, so here is our sonnet in its current form. The moment that my king bid me to kneel, and fealty's chain was on these shoulders draped, my homage then... Double homage. We used the word homage at the start, and I've just used it again at the end. So that might play really well. Yeah, cool. The moment that my king did bid me kneel, and fealty's chain was on these shoulders draped, my homage was then steeled upon his steel, and ever was my heart forever shaped. My mind and soul in one accord did grow. The bloodstone of my heart could hear no word. Let's change heart in there, because we just had heart forever shaped. Let's go soul. We haven't used soul. Oh, we did use soul. My mind and soul. What's another word for soul? Sorry, I know I'm... Conscience, courage, ego, feeling, genius, heart, intellect, intelligence, life, mind, personality, spirit. Spirit. We talked about spirit and soul, purity of spirit and soul. And in a way, that sense of being pure in spirit, I have one focus, one job. There is a purity in that. I think it needs to be bloodstone of my heart, so I don't think we can change heart there. And ever was my heart forever shaped. I think we can put spirit in there. And ever was my spirit something shaped. Something shaped. Julie, correctly. I'm thinking forged. You know, that kind of... When you shape something out of metal, you forge... So we've got steeled upon his steel. I think forge in there would be a really cool thing. And forged my spirit to this future shape. And forged. And so not really ever was my ever. So if we're ditching forever... We ditched the forever a while ago, didn't we? No, we didn't. I should actually Control Z, because I do kind of like that. And ever was my heart forever shaped. So I'll write it, I'll colour it yellow, just when we thought we were getting done. And forged. We've got aqua down there. Fiery. Aqua vitae is fiery spirits. Oh. Fiery spirits. That's aqua vitae. And spirit forged. Something. Shaped. We still want shaped. It still has to be shaped. And ever was my heart forever shaped. And ever was my spirit forged shaped? No. Forged and shaped. Forged and shaped. That would work. And ever was my spirit forged and shaped. So when you forge something... you are kind of shaping it. To forge it, you are... Well, let's get a definition of forge. Let's get a definition... Because I'm not sure if forging something... And I've got a whole bunch of mates that are blacksmiths, so I should know, but I'm pretty sure it's actually the fact that you are forming something using heat. Forge... To form by heating and hammering, beat into shape. To form or make, especially by concentrated effort. I think that works. And ever was my spirit forged and shaped. I like that. That sense again, that fire, the beating, that bruising, the pummeling. Love it. All right. Let's put our thoughts that we're going to stick with at the moment in green, so I know what I'm reading. So I've still got a couple of yellow words. We'll go with and there, I think. Okay. The moment that my king did bid me kneel, and fealty's chain was on these shoulders draped, my homage then was steeled upon his steel, and ever was my spirit forged and shaped. My mind and soul in one accord did grow, and bloodstone of my heart would hear no word, no thoughts of love, just axemen to my foes, and to make them fear the timber of my sword. But just like aqua, love will have its way, a trickle that erodes into a stream, Pleasing you is now my only fray, in life, in love, in hope, in all your dreams. My homage now doth lie in all your parts. I'll ever be the mistress to your heart. Damn! Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. All right. There we go. There we go. Thank you so much for sticking around. I know that there's probably no one really watching right now. But I tell you what. That was epic. So, first draft in 3 hours. I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, it was actually, by the time we started writing, it was probably a little bit less. So we've managed to knock out the first draft in under 3 hours. That's a pretty strong draft as well. I don't see that changing very much unless the purchaser doesn't think that it's hit the mark for them. I think it does. So let's wrap off again. So we didn't use March. We didn't use the birthday, but we got the March stone in there. Now, the stone led us to the aquamarine, which is the stone, which we didn't end up using. We used the other one, which is the bloodstone, which is the more traditional stone for March. So that was cool. We didn't use dogs. We didn't use draw. I could go back through, and I might play in there later and try and work the word draw in. And rather than it being drawing, I might make it something that draws it out. Yeah, so if I was going to put it in there, I think it would be that I'm going to try and draw something out rather than make it imagery drawing. So we'll use the word so that the concept of drawing is in there, but I don't think it's necessary. But that'll be something that plays on my mind. So we didn't end up using gems and gemology, but we do have the stones in there, so we do definitely have a reference to stones and gems with the bloodstone. And so that's the connection over there. We definitely got aqua in there. And we've used it. I love actually that we've found the double meaning for it, and for me, that, you know, yes, it's a color, but I really like it when we can find the double meaning in words and use them and present them in ways that can, you know, steeled upon his steel. I mean, those sorts of moments are great for me. We definitely got knights and mistress in there. We didn't get clouds in there. Yeah, we didn't, which is a shame, but I think that's okay. It's definitely a love poem. It's definitely focused on the knights and the mistress and the battle and that, you know, and again, that sense of forging, you know, that gems, what did we say earlier? Richard, who actually said it, he said pressure. You know, pressure is how gems are made. And, you know, we equated that pressure of the type of person that he became because of the pressure, and yet with no pressure at all, with just light words, whispers, whatever. And again, I don't know if this is how they met, fell in love, how their love grew. I don't know. This may be completely missing the mark, and I won't know until they read it, till he reads it. So, yeah, there we go. So, first draft done. It's a pretty strong draft. I'm pretty happy with it. I hope they are as well. I hope it really kind of speaks to what he was after, and that's always the question around this. And so there are a couple of times where I've had to completely rewrite stanzas for people because they went, you know, stanza 1 and 2, I think that's really hit the mark. Stanza 3, just no, just not what I wanted. So I'll get this draft off to the purchaser as a draft, and I'll probably sit on it for a couple of days after that as well. I actually want to get this to him pretty quick because I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know that it needs to change that much. But yeah, if it wasn't as clear to me as like the build in that sense of growth through the first two stanzas, that then just like when you get it like that, and that's the other thing that I'll do is when you're reading this, you might not feel that build if you're just reading it for the first time. But as an actor, as the writer, I can sense that build. And one of the other things that I'll do sometimes is people will pay extra and get me to actually recite the sonnet on video. So I record myself reading the sonnet so that they've got a clearer understanding of the flow of it. So because sometimes there's lots of double meanings and things. So anyway, that's all said and done. First draft is done. 3 hours in. That was a power night. I'm really happy with that. Sometimes that doesn't happen in 3 hours. For us to be able to get a bunch of research done, get a concept done, and to get through that in 3 hours, for me, that's great. I'll be honest, I can smash these out pretty quick sometimes. I've written one in less than an hour before, and it's just when it flows. That's the fun of writing. Sometimes it comes real quick, sometimes it doesn't. I've spent 2 or 3 days trying to get a sonnet working before. And it comes down to, I've been doing it a long time and I'm pretty skilled at it. So it's one of those things, and you can too. You can do this, and you don't need a lot of, you don't need dictionaries like this to do this yourself. You can sit down with this structure and write a sonnet. What I hope that you've seen tonight is a process of exploration of how ideas can lead to ideas. And, I was definitely benefited tonight by having a couple of people watch and comment to throw their ideas in the mix, and that's the power of collaboration. I may have gone a completely different tact with that. But yeah, so that's how it goes. And, it's that process of being able to follow ideas, expand on ideas, flow through concepts, and then see where they take you. And, there's a lot that we started with that's not in there now. There's 15 lines, 20 lines of sonnet that I've written up there that didn't get used. So you have to be okay. In all honesty, that is what you would call a failure. Those lines failed to make it into the final sonnet. This is the exploration of ideas. As a writer, as an actor, as a director, these are the things that we do. And, I think people get caught up sometimes thinking that they're not getting it, but you need to push on. You need to follow ideas, chase ideas. You saw how I was able to take ideas and jump around and sort of play on those ideas and get that. I'm doing that really fast because I've done this a lot. If you're just starting out with this, it might be something that takes you a while to work through, that you have to go and kind of look up the definition or look up the thesaurus to find other words that mean the same thing, to give you an idea of different ways that word can be used. What are the different contexts that this word can be used in? And that might take you a while because you got to put in that work. But I guarantee you, the more that you do that and the work that you do, it will lead to you being able to just sit there and riff ideas like crazy and come up with some amazing stuff. I'm really happy with that. I think it's great. I'm really pleased that I was able to share that with you. Thank you so much. Oh, yes, Drop Bear Adventures. You're still here. That's awesome. Please try sonnets. Please do it. On the channel, there is a video called How to Write a Sonnet, a Shakespearean sonnet. So it's more about, it's about writing sonnets. So I've got a little bit more of a condensed version of the overview of that. So check that out. So if you do write a sonnet, I want to see it. So make sure you come back, drop it on a video, or DM me somewhere, either here or on Facebook. I want to see your sonnet, please. Please share it. That would be great. Storytelling, sonnets. It's just the pursuit of ideas. You are nailing it right on the head there. So thank you so much for hanging around for 3 and a bit hours to go through that process with me. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to go off and get myself a drink. I'm a little bit thirsty now, but I will see you on the next one. Oh, of course, standard YouTube stuff. it would be great if you gave this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and all that kind of jazz. But thank you so much for hanging around, and please, Drop Bear, share your sonnet with me. I want to see it. That would be awesome. And anyone else out there that ends up watching 3 hours of this, please come on down. Share your sonnets with us. Drop them in the comments below. Love to see them. It would be amazing. I'm going to sign off now. Have an awesome weekend. There will be another video tomorrow night. And I honestly don't actually know what that one's about yet. So I've got a bit of work to do getting that sorted. But thanks so much for joining me. And thank you so much, particularly Richard Lamont and Drop Bear Adventures for hanging around and being a part of this with me tonight. Really appreciate it. I'll see you soon.